Chris Grier was the GM of the Miami Dolphins for nearly 10 years. And in those years, Miami had just 3 playoff appearances and no playoff wins. After 2 failed rebuilds, Stephen Ross finally came to the conclusion that this wasn't going to work out and finally parted ways with who I call Miami's Supreme Court Justice and freed Miami from the shackles of mediocrity. But in 10 years, a lot can happen, good and bad, especially in the NFL draft. What's up, everybody? My name is Sammy HT, and today we will be talking about Chris Grier and all of his draft classes. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Dallas Sports. We are on the road to 100 subscribers. Would love to hit that goal before the year ends. And with that being said, let's get started. Now, Chris Grier has been a part of this organization for like 25 years. A lot of people don't know this, but back in 2000, Chris Grier was hired by the Miami Dolphins as a scout. So he's been involved with Miami Dolphins operations and has pretty much been a part of the mediocrity that has been stinking up the place for 25 years. So what Stephen Ross decided to do was essentially promote a guy who was within this organization. Oh my gosh, this is crazy to think about. 16 years of nothing, and yet he thought somebody in-house that was a part of all 16 years of mediocrity would fix this problem. And he let him stay there for 10 years. That's ridiculous. Like, actually thinking about it, I cannot believe that. But let's go ahead and start with the 2016 NFL Draft. And if I'm being honest, it's not even that bad. Look at the players in this draft. I mean, Laramie Tunsil ended up being really good for us. And then when we traded him away for all those first-round picks, I think it was like 2 first-round picks or something, that ended up leading to the Tyreek Hill trade that made Miami Dolphins football exciting again. So great first pick. And then I can't say enough about Xavier Howard, bro. In my opinion, the greatest corner in Miami Dolphin history. I know what everybody says about Pat Surtain and such. I love Xavier Howard, man. I'll forever keep him in my heart. Kenyon Drake was a solid running back. Jakeem Grant became a great punt returner. That's great value at the 6th round. Now, imagine how optimistic Dolphins fans were after hitting on pretty much 4 players on Laramie Tunsil, on Xavier Howard, Jakeem Grant, Kenyon Drake. Like, imagine how optimistic Dolphins fans had to be about Chris Grier in his first year. I can't imagine, bro. I was a kid, so I didn't really have an understanding of what the heck was going on. I was like, 13? So I didn't understand. I just was rooting for the Dolphins just because they were my team. So imagine the next year, you know what? Great first draft, Grier. Let's go ahead and run it back, and let's do it again in 2017. 2016, look, man, keep it in the past, okay? 2017, it's going to be our year. After making the playoffs, we're gonna be just fine. Oh my goodness, bro. Even like 8 years later, it's one of the most stinky, disgusting draft classes I've ever seen. Charles Harris, first round pick. You want to know who was available back in the first round? You want to know who was available? Hold on, let me help you guys out. Let's see, his last name just so happened to be Watt, but it's his brother. And, the Watts, I mean, yeah, his brother was really good, but surely, TJ Watt won't be just as good, if not better. This team pisses me off, bro. Now, I'm pretty sure Cameron Wake was still a part of this team, so it's not like we had a desperate need for pass rush. But I will say it would have been great to have TJ Watt, be taken under Cam Wake's wing and then, blossom into an all-time great player like he is now. So, yeah, this is one of the worst draft classes I've ever seen. One of the guys they picked played 2 games in 2 years. Cordrea Tankersley, I believe, played like 3 years in the league, 4 years in the league. He only played 19 games. That's a 3rd-round pick. And by the way, like 3rd-round picks in general, I expect 3rd-round picks to be productive. Like, it's not crazy to say the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd-round picks, those guys should at the very least be a part of the rotation or starting. I will never expect a day 3 pick to be starting and like expect him to be productive in his first couple years. I won't. There are countless examples of 5th, 6th, 7th, 4th round picks all being incredible. But quite frankly, like, I just don't have the expectation that that's going to happen all the time. So yeah, as expected, the Miami Dolphins would end. So yeah, as you could probably predict, the Miami Dolphins ended up falling off of a cliff in 2017. Now, this next draft would be the final year under Adam Gase. Adam Gase, bro. Adam Gase single-handedly gave me, like, the idea that the screen pass was just an inefficient play. Like, it could not be a great play. Adam Gase is the reason for that. But anyway, we go on to the 2018 draft. Now, something about this draft that makes me so upset is that we pick essentially an all-pro in the first round, and we don't even keep him for more than a year. Yeah, we traded him, I believe, for a first-round pick, so we got some value out of it. But, man, it would have been awesome to have a guy like Minkah Fitzpatrick on this team, but I guess he just didn't want to play in Brian Flores' system. A system that we would have 3 years of before we fired him, by the way. Yeah, I bet that worked out great for you, Chris Grier. Jeez. Mike Gesicki, Jerome Baker, Durham Smythe, all quality players. Mike Gesicki and Jerome Baker particularly. Jerome Baker was not that good in coverage, but damn it, he could rush the quarterback, and he could also do fantastic things for run defense. Mike Gesicki and Durham Smythe both were great pickups. Durham Smythe for the blocking, Mike Gesicki for the receiving. It's unfortunate that Mike Gesicki could not take the leap as a blocker, because if he did, I genuinely would believe that he would have been a great player and not bouncing around the league like he is right now. You guys already know my stigma around 4th, 6th, 7th round players. But as you can see, there's one 7th round pick that is very divisive. We ended up paying him an extension, and some think he's not worth it. Some think he is. I'll go as far as to say he's worth it. Okay, he's worth the 7th round pick. He was worth the gamble. I know some people are salty about some of the missed field goals he's had, but if I'm being honest, he's been clutch a lot in his career, so I'm not going to hold it against Jason Sanders at all. Hopefully he comes back, because right now our kicking situation isn't the greatest, especially with Riley Patterson. Much rather Jason Sanders, believe me. The next draft class, I believe, is the beginning of the Brian Flores era in 2019. So Grier gets a fresh start. He's going to get a brand new head coach. And some might say, you know what? Grier deserves that. Because him hiring Adam Gase, whatever. I mean, it happens. So after having Adam Gase, we started over, and Brian Flores was 1,000% involved. Christian Wilkins and Andrew Van Ginkel, Brian Flores guys. And those guys were so good for us, let me tell you. Christian Wilkins, in my opinion, was a Pro Bowl caliber player. And Andrew Van Ginkel, oh man, I can't say it enough. Andrew Van Ginkel, what a pick from Chris Grier. So we got those two, and then Myles Gaskin gave us some solid running back explosiveness. Like, he wasn't bad. Now, he isn't like this crazy player, but he definitely helped us. He definitely helped us in the passing game. I thought this guy did a fantastic job. But of course, despite the fact that we made some great picks here, unfortunately, the team was going to suck, and we did. I believe we won only 5 games in that year, and we started Operation Tank for Tua. Oh my gosh, bro. Oh man. I'm amazed at how dumb we were, bro, thinking that Tua Tagovailoa with his injury history was going to just turn out well. But let's not exclusively talk about Tua Tagovailoa. Let's talk about the 2020 draft class, which in my opinion ended up being the most disappointing draft class of the entire era of Chris Grier. So first off, we obviously draft Tua Tagovailoa. He's not a terrible pick because he's had some great moments in his career. The problem becomes after Austin Jackson, and it was a reach then, and since then Austin Jackson has either been average or injured. So overall, is he worth a first round pick? Absolutely not, no. Then with the third first round pick, 3 first round picks, by the way, is crazy. And you would think having 3 first round picks would end up being, productive for us, right? Absolutely not. Noah Igbinoghene. Noah Igbinoghene, bro. We had 3 first round picks and 2 second round picks and a third round pick. And somehow, some way, all these players are either underwhelming or gone. from the team. Robert Hunt was a home run pick from Chris Grier, and we let him walk. For what? For what, bro? He was good. Re-sign him. He's good. And we draft Raekwon Davis. He's a nobody. No disrespect to Raekwon Davis. I'm going to keep saying it. The most disappointing draft class of the Chris Grier era. 3 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, a third-round pick, and somehow, some way, all those players from back in 2020, all of them either sucked out of the league or disappointing, or they're traded, or they left. Look at that 6th-round pick. You see that LS here? See that LS? You want to know what that means? It means long snapper. It means long snapper. We drafted a long snapper in the 6th round. So in 2020, we actually had a solid year. I believe we won 10 games, and we just barely missed the playoffs. So 2021 seems like a really, really important year for us. This draft class that we have in 2021 was actually pretty damn good. But there is one player that ended up not being very good for us, who we had high expectations for. A player that, in my opinion, should never start a game for the Miami Dolphins ever again. Okay, I mean, this, you guys see the draft class. Look, Jalen Waddle, Jalen Phillips, Javon Holland. Chris Grier was on an insane heater, bro. And then in the most important position, we draft Liam Eichenberg. Liam freaking Eichenberg, bro. I cannot. Oh my gosh, bro. Chris Grier, when it came to drafting O-line talent, outside of Laramie Tunzel, was not cutting it. And for another, if he did hit on a draft pick, unfortunately, he let him walk. Robert Hunt was an elite guard for us, and we let him walk. And he got paid a lot of money, to be fair. But damn it, it's the offensive line. And the Miami Dolphins in the 21st century had not had an elite offensive line. But for the most part, these are 3 fantastic first picks. Javon Holland, Jalen Phillips, Jalen Waddle, and somehow, some way, you ruin it by drafting Eichenberg. Unbelievable. And Hunter Long, a 3rd-round pick that we selected, ended up leaving after 2 years. We traded him away to the Rams. Now, of course, everybody knows the story. After the 2021 season, the Dolphins were underwhelming, and the Miami Dolphins wanted to make a change. We hired Mike McDaniel, an offensive-minded head coach, very innovative. Some called him a genius. And let me tell you, this is exactly the coach that we needed. We desperately needed a coach like Mike McDaniel at the time, because Tua was our priority. We wanted to have a franchise QB so bad that we felt we needed to hire the right coach. And for Tua Tagovailoa, Chris Grier hired Mike McDaniel. And we all know how the story goes. We trade for Tyreek Hill. We trade for Teron Armstead. And the expectations for the first time in Miami are incredibly high. What I'm about to show you are 2 years, 2022 and 2023. Miami had no first-round picks. One of the first-round picks ended up being removed due to the allegations of us trying to bring in Tom Brady, putting like money under the table. I'm not very familiar with the entire situation, but nonetheless, a first-round pick was taken away from us, and the other first-round pick was given to Kansas City because we wanted Tyreek Hill. So Chris Grier in 2022 and 2023 unfortunately did not have any first-round picks to deal with, but this was a chance to really see if he could really go deep in his bag and draft great talent in the later rounds. Things that the Chiefs do, things that the Lions do, right? Things that the Eagles do. A chance to separate yourself as an elite GM after you've been in office for 6 years up until this point. It's time for you to prove yourself, bro. Oh, man. Look, Devon Achane is a stud, and I'm so glad he's on this team. He's been a revelation for us, and I'm so happy. I hope he retires a Dolphin. I really, really hope we don't trade him. But if you look at the rest of these picks, man. Look, I know what I said about day 3 picks, okay, and how I don't expect them to be impactful, right? But Channing Tindall's a 3rd-round pick, bro. Jeez, man. And he's out of the league now. So that's a wasted third round pick. And Cam Smith, you guys remember what I said, right? About Noah Igbenogany. So in 2023, we decided let's go ahead and find a corner, right? Let's go ahead and draft a corner. Ramsey's getting old. Xavier Howard's getting old. Let's have a corner in our back pocket. And we decided to draft one. It was Cam freaking Smith. And unfortunately, we picked the wrong corner. Because 5 picks later, Tyreek Stevenson was selected. Tyreek Stevenson is a solid corner, okay? I'm not saying he's this like elite corner by any means. All I'm saying is that he wasn't traded. He actually saw the field. The frustrations that I have with Chris Grier are ultimately that it feels like he is in over his head when he's selecting prospects, bro. My problem with Chris Grier is that he couldn't draft offensive linemen and he couldn't draft corners. 2024 felt like really the last year of us like contending for any kind of title. Heading into that year, Miami had to make some decisions drafting players. Well, in 2024, we had our first round pick since 2021. I gotta say, Chris Grier hasn't done a bad job. This isn't a bad draft class. Chop Robinson, Patrick Paul, Malik Washington. Patrick Paul's a solid offensive lineman. Malik Washington's a solid weapon, and Chop Robinson has been pretty good for us. I want to make this evidently clear, though, and abundantly clear. By this time, it was year 8 under the Chris Grier regime. And it felt like, okay, we can keep on bragging about how these players are good, but we're not winning football games. We're not winning playoff games. Like, this is a drought that's been happening for like a quarter of a century now. Chris Grier had been general manager for 8 years up until this point. So at that point, I'm like, okay, well, I mean, he did a good job, I guess. But then the 2024 season happened, and we went 8-9. We went 8-9, back to mediocrity. The Dolphins go. So by 2025, when he would make these draft picks, I was over it. Now, I want to make this very clear. The players I'm about to show you from the 2025 rookie class, it remains to be seen on all parties. But the first 2 draft picks that we got so far are not looking good whatsoever. Kenneth Grant has been terrible. Jonas Savaiinaea has been just as terrible. And look, you guys know how I feel about day 3 picks. I'm not going to expect anything from them. But from their day 1 picks or day 2 picks, I'm expecting something. And unfortunately, I got betrayed. I'm not going to lie, I got betrayed. And unfortunately, those 2 have not produced. Which leads to finally Chris Grier getting fired. That was very, very hard to sit through and name. And I could go into further detail on why he just was not the answer for us. But I want you to peep that almost every single offensive lineman, every single corner, every single important position for us, it was either he was average or he was not good. And us Dolphins fans were tired of that. We were tired of it. He had been the GM for 9 years. And like I said in the intro, 0 playoff wins. That is an incredible feat. For you to be a general manager for 9 years and to not even, oh my gosh, to not even win a playoff game. And none of the games were even close aside from Skylar Thompson, who I forgot to mention. Skylar Thompson was drafted in 2021? And all he did was show that Mike McDaniel's offense is solely for Tua and nobody except Tua, clearly. So yeah, overall, just a frustrating 10 years of managing a team for Chris Grier. I cannot believe he was here for so long, but it just shows the incompetence of one Stephen Ross. Now we're gonna have to hope and pray that he makes the right decision now. I don't know if I trust him fully after he let Grier run things for 10 years and it led to absolutely nothing. But, alas, I am hopeful. I am hopeful that this team can turn around. Winning against the Bills definitely gets the bad taste out of my mouth. All right, that's going to do it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe if you're new. Tell me down below in the comment section, when was the day you felt that you had no faith in Chris Grier? I would say that 2024 season was my last straw. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Dale.